but I'll take a hug. And so we're talking about getting back grounded into the earth and letting that earth energy of what life is really about, that ki or chi energy, rise up through us and connect us again with all that is, all that's true, all that's good in the world, all that's wonder-filled, all that's wonderful. Probably the most recent book and the last book in the Conversations with God series is called Home with God in a Life That Never Ends. And the book was published on the 21st of March. It's the final book in the dialogue. And have any of you read the book, Home with God? Extraordinary book. I can say that I don't feel like I wrote it. As with all the other books, I feel like I was a scribe and just brought it through. But it's a breathtaking, extraordinary book, a very healing book for people who are looking at the question of death and dying. If you have someone in your family who's confronting that experience right now, if you've recently experienced the loss of a loved one, or if there's some question you have around the whole issue of what we call death and dying, you'll find that book very healing and quite extraordinary. I'm happy to say it's the last book in this series, and I'm happy to say that it came out on the 21st of March. 8 days later, on the 29th of March, it was #1 on Amazon.com. And on BarnesandNoble.com. And then a week after that, it hit the New York Times bestseller list. So we're very, very excited about that because it tells us that it's kind of like bookends. The first 5 books were bestsellers on the Times list, and now the final book. So 6 out of the 10 Conversations with God books were New York Times bestsellers. And I don't say that to brag. I'm saying that for a reason. It's important for us to really see what's happening here on the planet. That is an indication of the new level of willingness of people everywhere to begin to search for and embrace alternative notions of God, of life, and of each other. And that I feel like I've been given a charge, really, now that the final book has been written, that my job description has changed from one who brings the message through to one who gets the message out. But now, questions about anything at all. We have a couple of microphones here. If you'd like to come down and ask a question, or if you're back up there, too bad. No, just shout it out and we'll try to, or else come down here and ask. If anybody has a question, if not, yes, sir.
How did the process of your writing these books vary from the beginning to the end, if at all?
Well, the only variable was that the first 3 books were written by hand, and in the middle of the third book, actually book 3, I decided to see if I could transfer, and without losing touch with the energy, if I could do it on a keyboard, because I noticed that writing them in longhand was a very long and, I wouldn't say tedious process, but a time-consuming process. And so I thought, well, I'm going to see if I can, do it typing. And I found that I could. I found that it was possible for me to transfer that. I don't think I could have written the first book that way, which was not written as a book, by the way. The first book was just an experience of personal journaling. And that's true of the first 2 books. In fact, only the third book did I deliberately set out to do the thing called write a book. But all that shifted. Well, I guess there are two changes. 1, I've typed them now instead of writing them. 2, I feel that I can do it now more at will. That is, it's easier for me to make that connection than in the early times, 10 and 12 years ago. It felt like I had to kind of wait until the muse, arrived, until something exterior happened. I was in the mood or something occurred. Whereas now I can sit down and just say, okay, pal, meaning, my friend God. Okay, pal, I'm here. And she says, I know, honey. And then we just go. You're welcome. I should tell you this. There's a third change, and because of that, the speed. I wrote Home with God in 3.5 weeks. The New Revelations was written in 5 weeks. So the books are, and as opposed to book 3, which took 3 years to write. So what once took 3 years now takes 3 weeks. And by the way, that is an exponential increase in the speed with which this information is coming through to all of us. Have any of you noticed your life speeding up and the information coming through faster and faster and faster? So it's not a phenomenon that's limited to this person over here.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I have been waiting for a long time to ask this question. First thing I want to say is blessings to you for having the courage to publish the first Conversations with God. So I really appreciate the risk I know you took for doing that. And the second question is, throughout all of these books, you say God is talking to us all the time. There isn't a moment that God isn't talking. We're always connected. And yet there are definitely times, even within the Conversations with God books, that you seem to say, oh, God, you've shown up. You're here now. So that, I have not been able to... Yeah, I haven't been able to...
Well, thank you for bringing that up. It's just, I speak in the books, in the dialogue, as I speak in real life. The books are not contrived. I mean, the dialogue is very much the way I talk. You know, it's very vernacular. And so I speak in the vernacular that is in the popular culture way. And so when I say to God, oh, you're here again, or oh, you showed up, it's my, in the vernacular way of saying, I've noticed you once again. You've always been here. You never left, and really never stopped talking, never stopped communicating with me. But I have noticed you once again. So that's kind of really what I mean to say there. But I talk in the books in very common street language because that's what's made the books so doggone popular and so accessible, because it's very natural the way the dialogue proceeds. But that's really what I'm meaning to say. God is with us all the time. Because of course, she can't be other than with us, since there is no other place to be except right here, right now. And since there's no other person to be with except that which God is, which is you. See, there's no separation. I promise you, the problem is misidentification. When you are willing to identify yourself as that which God is, then you will feel God in you, as you, moving through you now. And when you move into that God space, you will have that experience in every word you speak, in every thought that you have, in everything that you do. Is it that way for me every day, 24 hours a day? Of course not. Is it that way for me now more than it ever used to be? Absolutely. Because I now have faith. One of the most wonderful books in the whole series is the book Friendship with God. And it talks about 7 steps to friendship with God. Boy, if you don't do anything else, take a look at those 7 steps to friendship with God. And find a way to make God real, palpable, and functional in your everyday life. Please don't let God just be a pie-in-the-sky concept up there that maybe one day we will encounter in the by and by. Allow God to be a living presence in your life this day by flowing through you to everyone whose life you touch. And there are a lot of ways to do that, most of which do not need to be described to you. But it all starts with a willingness, deep, deep willingness. Dear God, let me be a vessel. Let me be that through which you move, that everyone might know of your presence right here, right now, and be healed by it.